the thing that has stuck with me is to always be kind because you never know what people are going through. And you always want to treat people the way that you wish to be treated. And that's with kindness.
Welcome to Women's Thrive Podcast. This is where you'll get to hear incredible stories of female entrepreneurs, business owners, women from all walks of life. Myself, Raymond Jan, and my co-host Abigail will be interviewing incredible women, hearing inspiring stories of women from all around the world. I have no doubt that you will find something that will be life-changing for you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us for our future episodes.
Hello and welcome to this podcast episode with me, your host, Raymond Jan. Today, I'm really excited to talk about this subject that we have ready for you. So today we're talking about kindness and how it really influences us as individuals or as leaders in our businesses, whether we are in a career or a business. So my special guest today, I'm really excited to invite Dr. Argie Nell Nichols. Hello, Argie. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited about this conversation. And I think it's such a timely time to actually really having this conversation about kindness. So where are you joining us from today?
I live in the lovely state of Oklahoma, but I'm right on the border of Arkansas and Oklahoma. And I grew up on a beef cattle ranch in Arkansas. So I'm right on the state line, kind of right in the center of the United States.
I love it. I love your accent. It's different. And I love that you totally embrace it. Like for me, I love this accent. Argie, so before we kind of go into the subject, and before we actually got onto this podcast, well, I asked you, said, what do you really want to discuss today? And then you said kindness. I'm really curious why you chose this subject for today's episode.
Well, it's not just this episode, it's my entire life where I try to share kindness with everyone. For 45 years, I have been teaching in some form or fashion, either K through 12 or on the university level or private consulting. And I always add a pinch of kindness in everything that I do. And I can't tell you how many compliments I've had back from students of all ages that will let me know how much they appreciate that and that they don't always see that virtue, that human virtue that we all are capable of producing. And my students of all ages really, really appreciate that little sprinkle of kindness in everything I do.
Sounds so simple and so accessible to everyone, yet a lot of people can bypass it or forget about it. And it makes such a big difference in our lives.
It's the simple things like opening the door for an elderly couple or a young child who's just beginning to walk. I often catch myself sharing smiles and blowing kisses to younger children. Some of them look at me and cry because they don't understand what I'm trying to do. Others, I get the kisses back or the laugh. And, it just makes me, I'm a hugger because that's just a Southern thing here in Arkansas. So not everybody wants you to hug their child, but I hug everybody. But I've gotten to the point now that I say, is it okay if I give you the hug? And, you'll be surprised how many people appreciate just getting the hug. And it's just that little bit of kindness that just makes all the difference, especially this time of the year around the holidays. Everyone is stressed out, worried about, do I have all the gifts bought? Do I have the money to buy the gifts? How am I going to survive after the new year, after buying all these gifts? And my family and I have decided that the most precious gift that you can give someone is to sit down and have a meal as a family and tell things on each other and just laugh. And that's what we do. we have so much fun. And that's the little bit of kindness that we like to spread around the world.
I agree. I agree. Especially this time around, or this time of the year is just so important. So before we begin today's conversation, I wanted to officially introduce my special guest. So Dr. Argie Nell Nichols is seasoned entrepreneur, educator, lecturer, and author with over 45 years of experience in both education and business. Driven by a deep commitment to family and faith, Dr. Nichols is passionate about empowering students and women entrepreneurs to realize and achieve their personal and professional goals. Argie, I am super thrilled to have this conversation. And kindness is one of those virtues that I think is so important to have reminders to people, but also for me personally, I think it has really helped so much in my relationships, in my business, in just having a little bit of grace for yourself and others. That makes all the difference. So I truly believe that today's conversation will be interesting, insightful, and I hope our audience appreciates it.
Well, I guess we need to start about a few years ago as a young lady, an Arkansas country girl growing up. I have a tenacity and a grit about me that some people find, well, maybe too bold, but sorry, that's how I was raised. And it all goes along with the theme of kindness. Don't pull no pranks on me that I can't pull on you. And we all end up laughing, but it's that, and I call it my Arkansas country grit that I acquired growing up on a beef cattle ranch with Cherokee grandparents that were the kindest people I've ever come across in my life. And they raised us because mom and dad was working. So we had that very, very special relationship with them. And I was very close to both of them. But Papa and I shared something that most little Arkansas country girls or regular country girls or just girls don't always have. And that we call that our porch swing chats. He would work hard in the fields and come home and he would get in the porch swing and we would have our little almost daily chats. There were some times where he was too tired to share those chats with me, but that was the highlight of my life growing up. Now, my little legs were way too short to touch the floor, but he had long legs. So we would sit there and swing, and he shared all this Cherokee wisdom with me. And to this day, it has made such a difference in my life. He always said to me, I mean, he said a lot of things, but the thing that has stuck with me is to always be kind because you never know what people are going through. And you always want to treat people the way that you wish to be treated. And that's with kindness. And that's where I get it.
That's amazing. I love that you were having those beautiful conversations with your dad when you were young, and it also instilled your values. So tell me a little bit more about your professional work and how some of these values continued as a theme throughout your life.
Well, as a young child, I guess I was also a dreamer. I had the grit to go along, but I had the dreams as well. And I'm talking, I'm almost 70 here. So we're talking a few years back, like in the 50s. Life was different back then. So my dream was to grow up to be an architect, a designer. I remember as a young girl laying in the yard, looking up at the clouds and designing a house. No, back then it wasn't an elegant house, but in my mind it was. And at the young age of around 7, maybe 8 years old, I was introduced to Frank Lloyd Wright, who is a very famous architect worldwide. I kept dreaming and dreaming and dreaming and pushing forward and taking all the classes that I needed to take to be an architect. And lo and behold, when I graduated high school, I went to the university and I studied architecture. Now, I'm going to restate this one more time. This was many years ago when women weren't supposed to be architects/engineers. But I had that dream and I had that grit and I kept pushing forward. I even applied to study with Frank Lloyd Wright at his institute in Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona. And of course, I got turned down because at the time they weren't taking women, which was okay.
Wow. So you've been through quite a few things.
Yes. And that first year, and I'm going to tell this worldwide, I want everyone to hear this. My first year of being in architecture school, I started with my best friend from high school, and bless his sweetheart, he could not draw a line with a ruler. He just didn't have the talent. And so we get down to our final project, and it was a big presentation board that hung in a big room, all of us around the wall. And I did his design, and I did my design, and we swore on a stack of Bibles that we would be the only two that would know this. He made an A, I made a D, and I'd done both of them. So, well, we were kind of stuck. We were looking at each other going, okay, now what did we do? So we couldn't go to the dean and confess what had happened because we would have both been expelled from school for cheating, of course. But by gollies, I did a really nice design for him to get that A, but mine was just as good hanging right beside his. But anyway, that turned my life around, and I was probably one of maybe three in the whole entire school, women in architecture. So I changed my focus and I started in interior design. And I thought, well, if I can't come in design the front door, I'll come in after it's built and do my design work on the inside. Well, my friend went on to be a rather famous architect, and he would travel the world, and everywhere he went, I would receive a postcard, which I still have all of those postcards that he sent me. And he would say, Argie, you should be here helping me do this design. So that's where the grit played out. But that's also where the kindness came into play. So yeah, I've been around the world in the education field. So you ask how I got to where I'm at. I went back after I graduated the 4 years in interior design, and I couldn't find a local job. I could have moved to a larger city, but I had a young child and I needed to stay somewhat close to home. And so I ended up teaching. Just a full circle. I had a drafting degree that I acquired, which today it's called computer-aided drafting, where you do all the design work. And so that's what I ended up teaching. And I ended up in college teaching that. And we ended up having a international training center. I've trained architects from all over the world. Even though I'm not an architect, I have trained them from all over the world. So that's almost full circle. I couldn't be one, but I've trained all of you on how to do your job. And I did that with kindness. There was a piece of me that wanted to say, your face, bud, but I didn't do that. So I've spent many years on the university level teaching students to be professionals. And I guess one of my claim to fame is once I moved to the University of Arkansas, where I started this fiasco, by the way, I had one of the largest women population in my classroom. So I was able to get federal grants and really recruit some fabulous female students that are now scattered around the world. And that makes me very, very happy. And then from the International Training Center and the leadership and all of that, it just made sense that I continue teaching leadership. And I'm going to tie in what I'm really passionate about, and that is financial leadership. Because these women that I recruited in, a lot of them were single parents. A lot of them were first-time students. Maybe that's how I was able to get a lot of the grants to help them. But I helped them not just with their education, but how to live on a budget, be successful, go on and get the education that you desire, and make something of your life. And then it doesn't matter if you're a female, a male, or whomever. I was there to help everyone, but having those female students really changed my life, and it gave me a purpose. So that's how the financial part of it rolled in there, because I was their teacher for drafting, but I was also their coach and counselor for financial situations and helping them find the best jobs after they graduated. And the success stories that I get still today just make my heart explode. I love my students. They're out there shining in the world.
Before we began this podcast, we spoke a little bit about just having someone to believe in you, just have someone who sees the greatness in you and the potential in you. Who do you think was someone in your life that saw your potential and inspired you to pursue your goals and dreams?
It would have to be my grandmother, my Cherokee grandmother, the one I'm named after. I'm actually named after both of my grandparents, but her name was Argie, and that's how I acquired my first name. She was a tremendous influence in my life. She was a stay-at-home mom. She was the oldest child of several, 7 or 8 siblings, and she ended up raising all of those. She was the mother figure at a very young age. And so she instilled in me what it was like to have that kindness. She gave up her life to raise her siblings, and then she turned around. She had my dad, her only child, and of course, my brother and I came along, and she raised us. And oh, the kindness that woman showed me, and I think I got the grit from my grandfather and some of the kindness as well. But my grandmother was a huge influence in my life. Huge.
Things that passed on to us by those who raise us and those who are great to us.
Yes. She let me know daily that I could do anything I set my mind to. And I guess that's why I ended up one of the few females during that time frame in the School of Architecture. And I look back at how all those things changed my life and made me pursue. I was still going down that road to do the same thing, but I ended up kind of on a different track and ended up training the architects in the world. I never got to meet Frank Lloyd Wright. He passed away, of course, but I have traveled extensively to his homes, and I just ooh and ah every time I have an opportunity to visit one of his establishments that he created.
What gave you the courage to pursue things that were perhaps not so common at that time for a woman?
I think it was the drive that my grandparents had for me. Just being the Cherokee heritage, what is to me just amazing. And I'm going to be honest with you, I had no idea that Cherokee heritage existed until I was probably in my 40s. Not a clue. I had no clue that I had that bloodline, because Papa and Granny both were Indian, but they never told us. They never talked about it. And one day, Papa and I were out walking on the ranch, and he made the statement about this area is where our ancestors are buried. And I looked at him. It was just a tree-covered area. And I'm saying, Pop, what are you talking about? And he shared with me. And I said, Pop, I'm almost 45 years old, and you're just now telling me that my great-grandmother was a full-blood Cherokee? I said, why did it take you so long to share that with me? He said, because it was taboo back in the day she came from Cherokee, North Carolina, and she didn't walk the Trail of Tears. She took the southern route with my great, great, great grandfather. And we had no idea that we were Cherokee. None whatsoever. And of course, I started doing the genealogy and checking, and I found her where she was buried and everything. And I couldn't wait to get back home and tell Pop that I had found where his great grandmother was buried. And it's such an honor to be considered part of the Cherokee heritage. And
Yeah. So, Argie, what's for the future? So, we revisited a little bit about your story, about your past, about your current work that you're doing. What's in the future?
I'm going to be honest with you. After 32 years, well, a total of 45 years in education, I've decided, formal education, I've decided it's time for me to retire from the university. But I'm not going to retire from teaching. I have this desire to help people with their finances. And that's where the kindness rolls in there. It's unconventional because if you think of a financial planner, you're thinking spreadsheets and numbers and investments and that kind of thing. That's all part of it. But the unconventional part is the kindness that rolls in there. I think I have to gain their trust first to let them know how much they can trust me and that I'm going to be honest with them. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. If you're almost in your 70s and you haven't started a retirement account, it might be time to do something. But if you're 15 or 16 years old, you're not too young to start a retirement account too. So it doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter the profession that you're in. I'm here to share that kindness and tie it to financial leadership. So I do have a website called financialleadership.life. It's not .com, it's .life. And it talks about the different courses that I have set up and ready to go. And that's just my goal, is to live the rest of my life sharing this kindness and helping people, not necessarily just women, that's who I like to focus on, but people in general, to leave a financial legacy for their family, like my grandparents left for me.
And it's just so heartwarming to hear about your mission to support others. Because I believe, especially for women, when we have financial education and financial empowerment, we can be empowered in so many other areas of our lives to be able to make choices, to be able to be mobile and invest in ourselves and grow and invest in our communities. And I truly believe that when money and resources are in the hands of women, we build up other people, we give back, we create communities, and just what we're talking about, it comes from a place of kindness. Because I think women really lead with kindness way more than I believe that men do.
I agree. But however, if you find a man that leads with kindness, you might want to hang on to him and become his special friend. Yeah. But I agree with you. I think a lot of times women don't believe it. They don't have the grit that I have. They didn't grow up with the grandparents that I grew up with, and they don't believe in themselves when it comes to making financial decisions. And so I think that's important to have someone that you can be honest with and share your dream and figure out ways that you can financially afford your life. And it's not about money. Let me put it that way. Finances are not totally about money. It's about your life. It's about having good health, good friends, being able to do things that you've often dreamed of doing. And I know this is kind of a pipe dream that I'm talking about, because there are women that are just looking to support their families. Maybe they're single moms or whatever. But it doesn't matter the condition and the situation you're in. You tie that financial leadership with a little bit of kindness, and you'll be laying on the ground looking up at the clouds, designing new things.
I love that. And it is a matter of dreams. Once you have that resources, access to wealth, really, for yourself, for your future, for your kids, it helps you sleep better at night and it helps you make better choices in life. But also having that empowerment in education, since you've spent more than 45 years in education, the power of just education, people having the awareness, knowledge, and resources, especially around finances. So I'm really excited about what your new mission, dedicating that time to empowering others with this.
Absolutely. I'm excited for my new life.
Before we got on this, I think, Argie, you're starting a whole new chapter. And speaking of chapters, Argie, you will be one of our Women Thrive authors for the Bonding for the Women Thrive book. Tell us a little bit more about what can people expect in your book or in your chapter in our book.
Well, I have mentioned that Arkansas grit. So my chapter talks a little bit about me growing up as a young lady, going barefoot, traipsing across the dirt, and acquiring that Arkansas country girl grit. And it's a very unique story. It wasn't all filled with kindness sometimes, but that's where my background started. And I think if you'll buy the book and read about my start in life, you'll understand where this kindness comes from. And it might influence you to pass a little bit of that on to other people.
Love your story. It's absolutely beautifully set. It's giving me chills as I think about it, really, because I see now why kindness is a big part of your life. And a lot of times there's a reason why we acquire our values along the way. And what a beautiful value for you to have, to spread, and to share it with others, which I think makes a whole lot of difference in this world today.
Yes, it does. Not just for me, but the other lives that I'm able to touch. And that's just who I am. If you see me, I'll have a smile upon my face and a kind word for anyone and everyone.
Amazing. So I am very excited about the upcoming book that we have featured Argie's story in. So that's Women Thrive book, Volume 4, which is coming out early in February in 2025. And I am excited because in this book, we are featuring Argie's story as well as 13 other women. So there's 14 authors in this book in total. And this book is all about women overcoming adversities in life and finding a way to shine and still thrive in life. So I hope you can get to grab a copy. And if you are listening to this, make sure you share this episode too with others. That's a beautiful way to pay it forward, not only just in support of this podcast, but also for somebody else who may need to hear the story today in this conversation. Argie, how do people get in touch with you?
Probably the easiest way is to follow me on Facebook. It's just my name, both names, because I honor both of my grandmothers. It's Argie Nell Nichols on Facebook. And of course, I'm on Instagram and other things. And once you get there, you can send me a message and I can add you or invite you to my financial leadership private group where I share tidbits every day. And you can also go to my website, which is financial leadership, all one word run together, .life.
Amazing. Financialleadership.live. And of course, connect with Argie on her social media channels. I want to be in that group.
I'll send you a personal invitation.
I am so looking forward to it. And tell our audience, make sure you go and find it. So what's the name of the group?
It's just called Financial Leadership.
Amazing. So make sure you connect with Argie, get yourself into this Facebook group. I'm really looking forward to it. And of course, look out for the Women Thrive book and our official launch announcements. Or if you're watching this post and post-launch, also just grab yourself a copy. There are some really amazing and inspirational stories in the Women Thrive 1 and 4 book. I'm so excited to see all of these stories come to life. They're beautiful. They have lots of inspiration for all of you. And thank you so much for watching. And thank you to our wonderful guests today for being here and sharing your wisdom and kindness.
It's been my pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. And we hope to see you again on another episode. Take care for now. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Women Thrive Podcast. If you found today's episode empowering and inspiring, be sure to subscribe and follow us. Better yet, leave a review and share it with others. We're committed to bringing you more stories that will empower and inspire you on your own journey. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep pursuing your dreams.